There are many important aspects to warfare. Having enough bullets to keep your guns full, feeding the soldiers in your army, being at the right place at the right time to fit into the wider plan, and all this falls apart without communication. Those bullets you asked for went to the wrong place. You deployed in front of the forces you were supposed to be covering. Half your army has starved as the food was taken by the enemy, and you didn't know. True now and true in 40k. The wider communication within the Imperium is done via Astropaths. These are psykers who have been trained to send and receive psychic messages across the void of space. They are the communication backbone of the Imperium, a vital tool in its continued survival. But there are many questions about them. How are they bound to the Emperor? How are the messages sent? How fast are they? How are they made safe from others reading them? Once received, how are they deciphered? How is a psychic signal boosted? How many questions can I fit into this intro? Let's start. But what is soul binding first? Like many things within the Imperium, it's ritualized and carried out by the Adeptus Astra Telepathica. Normal psychers get training to specialize in sending the messages, and their minds are then brought before the power and the might of the Master of Mankind, and a small portion of the God Emperor's essence is put into them. Not all live after, but those that do are marked with blindness. But this ritual also gives them greater psychic might, so they don't really appear blind, and also provides protection from the demon within the warp. Next, how are the messages sent, and what's their speed from the Navis Primer? Ideally, the astropath should remove himself to a quiet retreat to prepare for the projection. He must center his mind unperturbed by the material world. Most astropaths insist on having their own quarters, separated from other officers and crew, to which they can retire to perform their talent. These quarters are set out according to the individual's taste. Some might be little more than cells, a brilliant white from floor to ceiling, sealed from sound to allow no sensory interference. Other might be cavernous grottos, draped with tapestries decorated in esoteric designs, the floor etched with hexagonic walls to keep the ravenous warp at bay, brilliantly lit by an array of candles and choked with heavy incense that cleanses the astropath's mind as a prelude to projecting a message. A certain astropath might prefer to inhabit echoing libraries, whose halls are crowned with tombs and scrolls brimming with arcane knowledge. Vox servitors might line the walls, reading aloud from selected grimoires, their monosyllabic chants sending the astropath deep into hypnotic state. Another might surround himself with the iconography of the God Emperor, his quarters decorated with sacred statues, and the relic bones of martyrs and heroes, with silver skulls droning incessant hymns to bring his mind to peace. The setting prepares the astropath's frame of mind for his task, and helps him to clear his psyche of all distractions. He must spend time contemplating the mental odyssey ahead, cleansing his mind of all unnecessary thoughts. Many astropaths find that the external stimuli helps with this process, and resorts to practices such as physical deprivation, bodily punishment, the ingestion of psychotropic substances, or the incantation of religious dogma. Some astropaths might have servitors suspend his fleshy frame on hooks swinging from the ceiling, or plunge their places of meditation into extremes of heat or cold, so that the physical anguish focuses their mental effort. Others might consume rare poisons that lift their mind free of physical baggage, leaving their bodies twitching and drooling during their meditative state. They might achieve a similar effect by inducing religious ecstasy and sacred mantras and hypnagogic prayers to the God Emperor. When the astropath finds himself in a heightened state of consciousness, he can begin to strengthen his mind against the dangers of the warp and prepare himself for the psychic journey ahead of him. When we talk about the speed of messages that are sent by astropaths, this process is not instantaneous. However, it is considerably faster than warp travel. An astropathic signal will cross a solar system in moments, across a subsector in hours, a sector in days, and if strong enough, a segmentum in weeks. And so how are these messages cloaked? Before an astropath sends out his signal, he should cloak his message in psychic wards to protect it from interception. The creatures of the warp can pick up stray thoughts projected through the ether. Mindless entities might simply consume the signal, feeding on its psychic residue, especially if its sender instilled fear or panic within the message. That will attract them. More cunning denizens delight in twisting the messages to cause confusion and disorder upon its receipt. If the message contains information that might be of use to the enemies of the Imperium, it is vital that it should not fall into their hands. It is not just demonic intelligences that can prove a problem. Xenos and heretic sorcerers are known to scry the warp precisely to apprehend Imperial signals, and even another, Astropaths, might attempt to tamper with the contents of a rival's message, as well as attempting to hide their signals from the prying warp. Astropaths encapsulate their messages in obscure mental ciphers known only to other astropaths. Signals are often not just relayed as simple images or sentences. Information might be projected as whispered coded messages, bewildering, hallucinogenic visions, psychic puzzle boxes that must be mentally solved and unlocked, prophetic dreams masked in obscure allegory, solemn hymns whose sanctity repels the unclean, or even grand operatic performances whose subtle meter and notation hide clues to the meaning of the experience. How they're sent broadly or focused, because you can do it in different ways. Before determining the effectiveness of this projection, an astropath must decide whether he wants to send it by either of those ways, a focused message or a broadcast message. A focused message must be sent to a specific astropath or a group of individual astropaths. I believe a group together are called a choir, known to the sender. A broadcast message is simply projected out into the Imperium in the hopes that it is picked up by any astropath. I imagine them doing something like that if, say, there's a very far distant hive swarm approaching the planet, but it's not close enough to block their signal yet. Also, when you have the message, how is it deciphered? An astropath who picks up the signal may still not understand the message encrypted within it. He might receive it as a blur of conflicting images or a faint whisper in the back of his mind. His mind may have to sift through the message and make sense of any hidden meanings or puzzling oracles contained therein. This might involve not just strenuous mental agility, but also the perusal of arcane lore. A powerful astropath can employ an entire army of scribe servitors to pore through an archive of tombs, ancient data slabs, and oracle bones to interpret the garbled utterances he pronounces as he imparts his visions into words. Less influential astropaths might only have a few scraps of parchment recorded, obscure prophecies that may or may not help decode the signal. These messages, when they're sent by astropaths, are not without error, signal degradation you could say, to use a modern term. Some messages are received by astropaths at entirely the wrong end of the galaxy and must be passed on to others who are nearer to the place in question. Some messages simply do not get to their intended recipient or are drastically misinterpreted along the way. In addition, there are too few astropaths. Most worlds, especially those with small populations or on the fringes of the Imperium, have none at all. For this reason, the Adeptus Terra cannot react quickly to every event in the Imperium. Even when an event occurs that is great enough to attract the notice of the vast and ponderous bureaucracy, on most worlds the Imperium feels very far away. Within the limits of a psyker's powers, how are the messages boosted? This task falls to an astropathic relay. The idea is to serve as a conduit through which the astropathic traffic of entire sectors is sent and received across the vast trackless depths of the void between each sector. This also makes it a very good place that heretics can attack to isolate a part of the Imperium. The psychic interchange is relentless and constant, and the burnout rate phenomenal. At times of all-out war or other calamity, dozens, even hundreds of astropaths might be sacrificed each day simply to keep the relay open and communication flowing to and from the affected region. Were the relay to fall silent for even the blink of an eye, untold thousands of lives might be lost, entire worlds could fall. Needless to say, such relays are vital to the continued existence of the Imperium, and the members of the astropathic choirs are fortunate indeed to survive them. So let me know what you think to this lore within the comments, and if you like this video in 40k, then why not try this one? And if you want a whole bunch of 40k lore, then why not try the playlist on the channel?